and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to draw buttercups 6 different ways. And for our supplies today, we're going to be using the Tombow Feud brush pen, a pencil, and an eraser. And we're going to get started by drawing our pencil guides. And because we're looking at the buttercups from different perspectives, these guides will all look a little bit different, but I'll walk you through them. The first one is going to be a top view of a buttercup. And so draw one big circle with 2 smaller ones inside of it. The smaller ones inside are going to be the center, and then those little tendrils that come from the center, and then the big one is the petals. This one, the second flower, is slightly from a side view, and so we're going to draw what looks like a large gumdrop. And the center, it's going to be more like a little rainbow because we're seeing it kind of from the side. I'm going to go ahead and also round this bottom just a little bit more because this is like a 3/4 side view. This third flower is going to be another gumdrop, not quite as rounded as the second one that we did, but still we're going to add that little rainbow center kind of closer to that straighter bottom. And this fourth one, really similar, but this is going to be more flat gumdrop, so make it slightly wider, a little bit thinner, just because of the angle that it is. This fifth one is also going to look like a gumdrop, but don't worry, whenever I teach you guys how to do the petals, they're all going to look a little bit differently because we're kind of taking a 360 look at a flower, and so the petals are going to be drawn slightly different. And for the sixth flower, this is going to be more rounded gumdrop, and this is going to be a complete side view. You're only seeing a slight bit of the center, so no need to draw that little rainbow. Now we're going to get started with the actual center, and so here on this first flower that's a top view, kind of think spider and spider legs, but they're not going to be like a sunburst. They're not going to be straight. Make sure you curve them just a little bit because you want to give it that kind of raised circle appearance. And from here we're going to do those little tendrils and just do like a long finger-like shape. Make some shorter, make some slightly longer, and like I said before, curve them just a little bit so that it looks like they're kind of curving upward. I apologize that my hand keeps getting in the way. I promise that I'll move it soon so that you guys can see. Don't worry about making this little finger-like tendrils perfect. It's the imperfections of our flowers that actually make them look more realistic, because flowers in nature, yes, they're beautiful and they look perfect, but each one will have that slight imperfection that will make it more beautiful and more endearing. And so here in these tendrils, make some shorter, make some longer, and when you feel like you have the nice right amount, go ahead and start with your petals. When we do the petals, I like to start with what I call a guide petal, and that's the petal that's kind of lying above the rest, whose shape you can see all the way. And sometimes, like this flower, you can have two that you can build those petals off of. So once you do the guide petals, you can start building the petals like I did here in the video. You can add little dips and curves to your petals in order to make them more realistic. Make sure that they're not too perfectly rounded. We're going to get started with our second flower. In this flower is about a 3/4 side view, and so we're going to get started with the center. And think spider again, but this time you're not actually going to see the full length of the back ones. So make the front little legs a little bit longer and then the back ones slightly shorter, so it looks like a gumdrop as well, but in a smaller scale. And then with the little tendrils, you're going to make them kind of curve upwards, up the sides, so that it looks like it is from the side view. Once you finish with the center, we can start the petals, and we're going to have our big guide petal here on the back, and the front petals are going to be a little bit tricky because these petals are the ones that are coming towards us and then folding away from us. And so you're going to draw a line and then kind of curve it back onto itself, and then use a line to connect it to the center like this. And we're going to repeat that step one more time here on the other side. So do a line and then fold it back on itself, and then use another line to connect it to the center. Here you use your guide petals to build the last 2 petals of this flower. We're we're going to draw our third flower a little bit differently because our guide petals are actually these two frontal petals that are folding into the center. And so with these petals, we're only seeing that top edge that is folding over. And so we're not going to see the full length of the petal. And so they're going to look almost like a little mustache or two little jelly beans lying next to each other. And so once you build those, you can actually start with the center with those little spider legs and then with the finger-like tendrils that make up the rest of the center. Once you finish with the center, we're going to add one more guide petal here on the back and use it to build the last two petals. And these last two petals are going to be slightly different than the second flower because we're going to add another fold. As you can tell with the second flower, it doesn't have a fold, but these, because it's slightly more side view, we're going to see a little bit of that side edge of that petal. And the way you add a fold is to just add an extra line along the edge of the petal. With our fourth flower, our little guide petal is going to be a little center one here, and it's all another little jelly bean, not quite as long as the other ones. And from here we're going to build the center and those little tendrils, and then we're going to add two petals kind of going off to the side. Once you finish drawing the center, we're going to use the center and our guide petal in order to build the two side petals. And these are going to be a little bit longer and more narrow, and we're going to add an extra line to add a fold to these petals. So here it is on this side, and we're going to repeat the same process on the other side. And when you add the back petals, they're going to be a little bit shorter than they have been in our other flowers, because just the way perspective works, the more on the side you get, the shorter the back petals get. With this next flower, our guide petal is going to be a little bit bigger and slightly off to the side like this, and then we're going to repeat that same process that we did with our second flower, where we draw a line and then curve it onto itself and then add one more little line to connect it to the center. And these two are going to be the guide petals for this flower, and then we're going to add the center with the little spider legs coming down and then curving those tendrils upwards, and from there we can build the last of the petals. Once we're ready to build the petals, we're going to start off here with the side one, and then we're going to add an extra line for the fold, and then we're going to go back around adding the rest of the petals. For our last flower, we're definitely seeing this one much more from the side, and so the guide petal is going to be similar to the last two flowers that we did, but it is going to be taller because we are seeing more of the underside of the petal. And then for the two petals to the side, think almost like a right triangle where they kind of go up, have a point, and then angle back towards that petal. And I'm going to add a little extra fold to this one on the side just to add a little bit of uniqueness to this flower. And because of this side view, we're probably only going to see a few little points of those tendrils picking out from behind the petal. Great job, you guys! We have reached the part of the video where we add the details. You guys have done amazing. This detail parts will take a little bit of time, so take your time, pause the video if you need to, rewind. If you're still drawing the flowers, don't worry about it. This video is here for you guys to watch at your leisure. As we get started with the details, I want to share my top tips when it comes to drawing your details. So tip number 1, add variety in the length of your lines. Make sure that they're not all the same length, or else your flower is going to look really static. Tip number 2, make sure that you add curves to these lines. The detail lines are going to show the viewers of your flowers, people that are looking at your flowers, and even to yourself, which way the petal is folding. So make sure that they curve in the direction of the petal folds. My third tip is to make them more condensed or more saturated or closer together towards the center of the flower, and then spread them out as they get to the edge of the petals, and this will add a lot of depth to your flowers. Another tip is to not be afraid to turn your paper. Whenever you try turning your arm instead of your paper, then your wrist kind of gets at a funky angle. So twist your paper around so that you have more of a gracefulness as you're adding those detail lines. I'm going to go ahead and speed up this section of the video just a little bit. The details do take a little while, so go ahead and relax, put on a show while you do this. If you're unsure of where to add the detail lines, do it in pencil first so that you can see how it looks before you ink it. Another tip is If you're using a reference photo, I mean you're not because of this video, but when you're drawing from a reference photo, look at the natural veins of the flowers. They're the biggest indicator of where a detail line should be, because adding those natural veins with detail lines, will definitely make your flower look realistic and have a lot of movement. Once you finish with your detail lines, then you're ready to erase your pencil lines, and behold the beautiful flowers that you guys have created. If you have chosen a pen that likes to smudge, make sure you wait enough time for that ink to dry before you erase, or else you're gonna smudge the ink. But once you guys are done erasing, you're gonna be able to see the beautiful buttercups that you guys have created. If you feel comfortable, please go ahead and post it to your social media and tag me at karenb.creations. I would love to see it. Thank you, bye.